Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of Willow Talk. Adam Peacock here alongside Elisa Healy and also Brad Haddon. Good weekend, everyone?
Mate, great weekend. Just got a lot better because we got the opportunity to talk to a true entertainer of the game. Can't wait.
Thanks, Brad.
Well, two, in fact, Heels, and also our special guest on this episode of Willow Talk. Tomorrow, as we sit here right now, it's obviously Tuesday the 29th. Tomorrow, the 30th, out available at all good bookshops and everywhere else where you can get your stuff to read. The Showman, the story of Glenn Maxwell. Glenn Maxwell's new book, and it focuses on the last 12 months from Maxi's career, breaking his leg through to the incredible World Cup double 100 against Afghanistan, and a bit around the edges as well. And he joins us right now. Maxi, how are you, mate? Author, you?
Yeah, very good. It's been a long process getting this book done in time for this summer, and extremely proud of it to be coming out really soon. And hopefully everyone enjoys it and enjoys the stories in there.
Maxi, how are you, mate? I've never seen anyone have more influence on kids than probably you and Binger with the way you play. But you know what? That's not always good, because after your 200 against Afghanistan, I had the opportunity to help out my son's under-12 team. And I had to explain to them, you got to get over your front knee, you got to get your weight through the ball. And they said, no, you don't. You can just stand there and reverse sweep it. We got bowled out for 25. But I tell you what, it was the most entertaining I've ever seen an under-12s cricket game. And they got me on a technicality.
Yeah.
And he said, you've got to practice this way. They said, no, you won't. That doesn't bring people through the gate. Glenn Maxwell.
Your fault.
Well, I can only apologise, and
It was good fun.
the funny thing is, because I remember growing up in juniors, and I always concentrated on technique and like tried to have like a cover drive like Ricky Ponting, cut shot like Adam Gilchrist, and off my pads like Mark Waugh, and that's what I was trying to strive towards. So it's great that kids are watching cricket and trying to emulate. Maybe not the right person to sort of emulate when they're in writhing pain and wishing it was all over. But it's nice to have that sort of influence, but sometimes it goes a bit awry for some junior coaches.
So we're looking forward to this chat. We'll talk about the book, obviously, off the top, and a bit later on, the impending stuff with the international one-day summer and potentially some red ball cricket on the horizon as well for you, Maxi, and also the secret cricket club questions. They're nothing to be scared of, by the way. They're just our mates on Instagram who have sent through, and they are filtered by producer Sam, so there's nothing untoward being asked there. So, mate, firstly about the book, the premise of the book, those 12 months from a horrific leg injury that you describe in great detail that you suffered in November 2022, all the way through to doing what you did against Afghanistan and then being part of a successful World Cup. Why focus on that?
I think over that journey of 12 months from where I was, I think there was a lot of really nice life lessons in there, not just for, I suppose, the cricket viewer or cricket watcher, I think for everyone. And it was a good way to sort of explain all the things that were sort of happening behind the scenes in the lead up, and the anxiety and the physical turmoil I was probably under to sort of meet that deadline. And I was able to reflect a bit on passages throughout my life and relate those to things I went through over those 12 months. And we talked about doing a book over the last 2 or 3 years, and I sort of pushed it back and sort of didn't really think that the story was like quite filled yet. And when I broke my leg, that was probably around the time we were talking about a book, and then sort of got put on the back burner again. And then when the World Cup happened, the innings in Mumbai, and the fact that we won the tournament, it sort of came full circle and was able to be an ideal sort of timeline for us to be able to reflect on. And even like sort of speaking with Kohli, who was a brilliant ghostwriter for me, did a great job, and even sort of speaking through the stories and being able to go, oh, that's right, that happened, and sort of him sort of set me off on these tangents, which the books can sometimes do. It sort of goes off in different little areas where it reflects on even some English club pub cricket that I played in 2000, I think 2008, I think it was, and to reflect that to something that happened over those 12 months is quite funny. And the fact that a lot of my teammates had different roles in my journey as well, and I was able to reflect on my relationships with those guys and talk some stories about them, and hopefully it just gives everyone an idea of, I suppose, what it's like to come back from a really serious career-threatening injury and to come out the other side of it. But it certainly wasn't all smooth sailing.
Was it somewhat cathartic to you to be able to talk about those tough times, though? I mean, sometimes you wait till the end of your career and people ask you questions and you think, well, yeah, I did go through a lot, but was it almost like a cool opportunity for you to talk through them almost at the time?
Yeah, I think the great thing about Colo, he knows me so well, and even when we sort of started our chats, he'd sort of set me off with maybe one little question, and I would talk about that for maybe two and a bit hours, and go off on little different sort of tangents as well, and sort of end up sort of coming back to it and remembering different things that sort of happened in those times. And I've got a really good memory, I suppose, of cricket instances and sort of things that happened with my teammates along the way. And I was able to sort of, I suppose, draw on a lot of those experiences over the road. And it was quite enjoyable, I think, thinking about those early days, firstly playing back at my club cricket for South Belgrave, growing up, and then talking about my journey into the Vic side, and then a really quick transition from Vic to Australian team where I was welcomed by Hads and the rest of the crew, and to be able to, I suppose, share the change room with a lot of the guys that I used to watch on TV. And it felt like I went from a really young, immature high school student to playing for Australia really quickly, and had to sort of change, I suppose, the way I was as a young person to all of a sudden being looked at as an Australian cricketer.
Yeah, you mentioned those tough times. I will mention, though, that Adam Collins is the guy that's Colo, who obviously is all over the media and absolutely loves cricket and does a great job across the various platforms that he works on the game for and about and writes about and talks about. I will say that tough times would be for him having to transcribe 120,000 words of tangents that Glenn Maxwell has come up with. So shout out to Colo for what he did there.
It's a 6-part series.
Yeah. I've been there and it ain't fun, let me tell you. But anyway, it's turned out great. Maxi just brought up walking into a dressing room with you. What do you remember when this kid walked through the door?
Mate, I think my first memory was how athletic he was. We'd come through the era where you had Ponting, Simons, Clark, and then all of a sudden Maxi came in and took that to a new level. But the one main thing I remember watching him bat, and you knew you were old because they were playing shots that you sort of look at and everyone's saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. It's going for 4 or 6. And you think, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be in this team long because guys like Maxi came in and you can sort of credit him to changing the way the game played to play 360. And that's my first thought when guys like Maxi come in thinking, we can't do that.
I play the modern game Hads and I can't do that. So it's not just you.
I've actually got a great story about and this isn't even in the book. I just remembered this. And
part 2, save it for part 2.
Part 2, but it was funny meeting Hads, and we had I'm not sure if Hads remembers this, but we played up in Darwin on the lead up into the UAE series, and we had a practice game, and it was mid-30s, it was hot, and we were batting out there together. And I remember facing Dan Christian. I was batting with Hads, and I played a couple of shots, might have hit a 4 or blocked one, whatever. And Christo came down and gave me a mouthful as he did, and I sort of looked at him and I was like, what was that about? And Haz just came down, patted me in the ass, and he goes, don't worry, mate, he's just jealous because you're taking his spot.
True story.
Funny thing is, me and Christo are bloody tight now, but I don't think he'd even remember that. He had that many blow-ups at me, I reckon, early days when I was coming through. And then we ended up being state teammates and Australian teammates, so it's nice for it to come full circle.
In the book, you've got 2 pretty handy cricketers who have written forwards to the book for you, Pat Cummins and Virat Kohli, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing for Virat Kohli. Tell us about your relationship with the great man on Instagram.
So when I obviously got wind that, well, didn't get wind, I got picked up in the auction that I was going to RCB, and Virat was one of the first guys to message me and welcome me to the team. And when I turned up for the pre-IPL training camp, we obviously got chatting. We spent a fair bit of time training together, and as you do, you sort of go to your socials and like, oh, I should probably follow him, and didn't even think about it before that. Never really sort of crossed my mind. I was like, oh, you know what, I'll follow him. And I was like, I can't find him. Like, I'm sure he's on social media somewhere, and sort of didn't think anything of it. Not really that, I suppose, savvy with Instagram. Post the odd story, post the odd collab, whatever, but didn't really understand why he wasn't coming up. And then someone mentioned that he might have blocked you. Like, that's the only way you won't be able to find him. And I was like, surely not. And then I went and asked him at one of these trainings, oh, have you blocked me on Instagram? And he was like, yeah, probably. And he goes, it was probably when you mocked me during that test match. I think I got the shits and decided to block you. And I was like, oh yeah, that's probably fair enough. And so yeah, he ended up unblocking me, and we became great friends after that. But yeah, it was a nice little story to have a little side note. But we've had quite a funny relationship, I think, leading up to playing IPL together and sharing that change room and sharing experiences, becoming parents, I suppose, around the same time. And from the days where we were both young and brash and going hard at each other on the field, and Had's probably been front and centre of all that as well, and sort of been the orchestrator of like, Maxi, get into his face and like say some words to him, like get the young guy to do all the hard work. Yeah, no worries, Hads, I'll get in there and spray him for you, and then
I'll help you.
Get blocked on the socials. Yeah. Hads just chimes in behind you.
Maxi, I'm going to let you loose on this one. Your best mate, Finchy. When we first came across both of you together, mate, the way they used to talk at each other in the field, and you'd walk off, you're thinking, oh, I think these two are best mates. Maxi, I'm not going to ruin it. You tell us about your relationship with Finchy.
So me and Aaron have an odd relationship where we can literally say anything under the sun at each other, and it can be as brutal and like personal as you can possibly think of, and within maybe 5-10 minutes be absolutely fine. Like, not a problem whatsoever. Like, wash it away. Don't hold on to it. But there was a point I reckon where it got so uncomfortable on the field, like other players would just freeze up. So it'd be like Finchy would be captain, I'd be bowling. He'd want me to say one field, have one field, and I'd be like, no, I don't want to bowl to that. That's not what we talked about. And he'd just go, no, we're having this, and then it would just be like barbs going both ways, like just hammer and tong. And the batters are like, these guys have forgotten we're even here. Like, they've completely forgotten we're like involved in the game. So it used to get uncomfortable, but we used to be able to just, I suppose, let it slide off our backs and just get on with it. And some of the blow ups on field are just they were funny to us post game, but we can understand how uncomfortable it would have been for the rest of the team to be watching these two Victorians. Well, I think we were basically the only two Vics in the squad at that time, just going hammer and tong. And I suppose even when Wadey was there, he was probably just throwing some bait out there just to like sort of fire him up. And it just got uncomfortable at times, didn't it, Hads? It was bad.
The only time it got uncomfortable when you had, like, when Michael was there and I was then your captain and vice captain, you're thinking, oh, I don't think this team gets on, pup. I don't know what you're going to do. then you'd walk off together thinking, how are we going to deal with this in the change room? Like, this is brutal. Mm. Then they'll be sitting next to each other. Do you want to be in there laughing? You're thinking, hey, what's going on here? It's not until you get to know your teammates, you're thinking, like, you remember walking off thinking, oh, we don't need this. You're leading into a World Cup or something. They're not getting on. Then they're driving each other home. They're out to dinner. You're thinking, we've misread something. It's not till you get to know your teammates, the relationship. I loved it. I thought it was great.
That's the thing. We'd all be out to dinner together all the time. Like, it'd just be us two. We'd be playing in the same golf group all the time. And then on the field, if just something slightly was a little bit off from either one of us, the other person did not miss. And it got uncomfortable.
But the other thing is, you weren't allowed to talk to Maxi or Finchy like that. Then they'd both go at you.
Yeah.
So you just think, mate, where does this end?
It sounds like it's brothers. I feel like that's
exactly
kind of exactly how it sounds. Speaking of books, Maxi.
And Victorians as well.
Yeah, and Victorians and that dressing room, that would have been volatile, I'd imagine. Hodgey recently released a book of the greatest knocks. Do you feel a little bit robbed about not being number one? I mean, I thought I should have been like lower as well, but hey.
we were both stiff heels. Like, I got to be honest, I'm still so angry that I gave him permission to use my photo, and to make it even worse, I thought he was using my photo to promote that it was number one. When I heard it wasn't number one and he was still using my photo, I was filthy.
Great marketing.
So the message I got from my manager was like, "Did you give Hodgey permission to use your photo for the book?" And I was like, "I don't remember doing that." And I sort of went back through my messages, and I've basically just given him a thumbs up to some message he sent me when I was overseas, and I was like, I don't remember replying to that at all. Like, must have sent it at some stupid hour while I was overseas, and I've woken up and just given the thumbs up emoji, and that was it. And then he's given me some backhanders about my book as well. He's like, he goes, at least I wrote my book. You had to get someone to show it. I was like, come on, Hodgey, you didn't even write about yourself. Like, come on, you have to write about other people.
Are you okay though that Steve Waugh, Sabina Park is number one? If you're going to be pipped by something and someone, I guess.
Well, I haven't read the book. Hodgey lives around the corner, and he's too lazy to drop it around. And but you know what? That's fine. And mine was in a one day. I suppose that means less than a test knock. And yeah, I understand that. But
Nah. I'm not having
people don't understand. It is so hard in white ball cricket. You've got to keep up with the scoring rate. Like, there's no scoring pressure in test match. You can bat all day. Like, it's not that hard.
You also had to walk up 100 steps after that.
Oh, what was that like? You described that in the book.
I thank God it wasn't a Metabad, because I'd still be stuck, I reckon, halfway up those steps.
Hey, Maxi, overall, though, before we move on to some more current issues, what's the main thing that you'd like a reader to take out of this book?
Main thing? I think there's a lot of things in there that I'm really proud to sort of be able to talk through. I think a lot of the personal stuff that I generally keep quite hidden from social media and the public, the stuff relating to my wife and the pregnancy, I suppose the mental anxiety that I probably go through day to day, that never really sort of ceases or changes too much. I think for people to be able to relate to certain issues that I talk about in the book, I think would be one thing that I hope people get the most out of.
Okay, let's move on to a bit of chat about red ball cricket. And we're here on Willow Talk with the great Phil In, who joins us for a chat. I don't know if you saw it. Yes, you're giggling. So you saw it on the scorecard. The electronic scorecard came up with Glenn Maxwell's name as Phil In on the second 11 game against Queensland a few weeks ago.
The best one was that score. I saw that. Annabelle Sutherland was checking her phone to see how Will was going, and I said, "Oh, like, how's the game going?" And she goes, "Well, there's a guy called Phil In." She goes, "I assume that's Glenn Maxwell because I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be playing."
How'd it go for you? The new name by deed poll, and also the actual game itself.
Well, I'm glad those stats don't go under my name and they just go to Phil's. But I thoroughly enjoyed the week. I suppose for me personally, there was a bit of unknown how I was going to go 4 days in a row in the field, potentially back-to-back days, fielding long days, running around, and I suppose different moments of sprinting at the back end. And I hadn't really sort of tested it out over the last year or two. So to sort of get out there in a bit of a testing environment, second 11 was able to sort of manufacture it a little bit. And I was really proud of how the 4 days went. Probably not so much statistically, which I wasn't, I suppose, putting too much pressure on myself about. But the fact I sort of came out the other side at the end of the game, I felt really refreshed still and felt in a really good space.
And Sri Lanka, Maxi, achievable?
Yeah, I think it is. And obviously a lot needs to go right selection-wise and form, timing and all that sort of thing. But this was a small step, I suppose, heading that direction to make sure that I'm giving myself the best opportunity to be able to put my name up in front of the selectors. And I think going into the Shield game with what my mindset was like before that second 11 game, I don't think would have been fair to the other players. I think I still had some doubts about whether I was going to be able to get through 4 days in a row of cricket. And I think to have that mindset into a Shield game, I think is probably just not quite where you need to be at first class level. And the fact that I was able to sort of get through that second 11 game gives me confidence heading forward that if I did have an opportunity to play a Shield game, I'd be able to, I suppose, go at it 100% and not sort of leave anything sort of hanging back and not go in it with any worries or issues.
Speaking of mindset, we know what you can do in white ball cricket, and you hit your first ball for 6 in the red ball game. Does your mindset at batting change at all, depending on the format? I mean, it's got to a little bit, but if you see it in your zone, you're still going to hit it, aren't you?
I went into that innings probably as nervous as I've been for any game for a long time. And to be honest, they had the whole field up.
That was a free hit.
I was telling myself, you don't need to go. You've got ages to bat. Give yourself a chance. And as soon as he let it go, I was like, I can't just pat that back. Like I have to hit it over. I have to hit it straight. And it was an off spinner from around the wicket. Like there's not much spin at the Junction Oval, especially early in the first few days. And I put a good swing on it. I hadn't hit a cricket ball in 4 days before that. That was what I did realise when I was walking out to bat. I was like, I've missed my opportunity to have a net this morning because I was going to have it at lunch and they declared early and I just stuffed all my timings up. And then I was walking out to bat. I was like, oh no, I haven't hit any balls recently. What am I doing? And then so I got rid of the nerves by hit one over long on to start and was able to sort of ease into it after that.
Well, you'd hit your driver on the first tee, wouldn't you? So you'd be right.
Well, most of the time, if there's enough space left and right.
Yeah.
Which there was on this occasion.
But that's why you need to look at someone like Maxi for Sri Lankan tour. You're talking about can his body handle it? Can he get through 4 days? Well, the games aren't going to go 5 days.
Yeah.
And you might need someone to play brave like that on those turning wickets in Gaul to take the game, to move the game around, make it easy for someone else. So that's why you consider him for the Sri Lankan tour.
Maxi, just with your career overall, and like you ask a Victorian, and they're filthy that you haven't been picked more for red ball cricket for Australia, and you'll get a really clear opinion on it every time you go down to the great southern state down there and chat to people in Melbourne especially. But now that you've been through the process of writing what you've written, and you mentioned at the top it was kind of like a refreshing way to look back at your career and what you've achieved, do you need more red ball cricket to prove anything to yourself for Australia?
I don't think I need anything from now. I think from what I've been able to achieve, I think during my career, I'm extremely proud. I've been able to, I suppose, tick off a lot of things that I really that I set out to achieve. And I suppose 100 in each format was certainly one. To be a part of a lot of team success, 3 World Cups is something that I'm extremely proud of. And I think one of the things I remember when I first started, I wanted to be someone who was enjoyable to watch, who could change the game, and people would want to, and be someone I'd want to go and watch play. And I've sort of tried to live by that as much as I possibly can throughout my whole career. I've always wanted to play in an entertaining way and make people want to watch the game and people enjoy it and talk about it. And sometimes it hasn't always been positive chat, but like I suppose that's the other side of it. And I've been, I suppose, reasonably comfortable with how my career's going. There's obviously things that could have gone the other way, but I don't think I can be upset with how it's played out over the last 15 years.
It's pretty cool. I mean, you've achieved a lot. You should be proud of it. But while we're still on the Red Ball chat, everybody's got an opinion at the moment, and we'd love to hear yours. Hads gave multiple opinions in the last podcast, but who do you reckon's going to open the batting with Uzi in this Test summer?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about this before, and I was like, well, I've opened in every format, so maybe it wouldn't be the worst. Never. No.
Had's just put you down. Yeah, he's all right. He's got a fourth option now. Yeah.
Love that.
If you want someone to change the game, no, certainly not. Well, they could do worse. They could go back to Finchy.
And you also haven't retired and put your hand up, so at least you're still playing. So,
I think I've really enjoyed watching, I suppose, the battle. And this happens, I think, the start of every summer. Like, the first few field games are so fun to watch. And there is probably 10 to 15 test bolters in the first week or so of the season. And it's great to watch. And I think having watched the Shield game at the MCG and watching the ball do a bit more two high-quality attacks and sort of seeing how batters struggled when it was really difficult in the top levels probably shows a bit what it's going to be like against India. It's not going to be easy. They're going to be high-quality attacks, and I think sometimes you have to take, I'm going to say, the flatter wickets, sometimes with a grain of salt, and sometimes the results from those probably don't hold as much weight, I think, as some of the test venues that I suppose produce probably better standard wickets for 4-day cricket. But there's certainly been two guys that have really stood out for me, and that's two wicket keepers in Inglis and Carey. I think they've both put their hand up for how well they're playing, and if you talk about having your best six batters, I think it's hard to go through past those two. And whoever opens, like, maybe just put the top six and draw them out of a hat, and good luck.
But just to reiterate, not Finchy, not Aaron Finch. Just to check.
I think me and Finchy can cross our names off pretty good.
Sweet. Just check. Just wrapping that and putting a bow on it. So fair enough.
Yeah. And not Hodgey either. Hodgey's done. Hodgey's done as well. Hodgey's out. He's off my Christmas card list and everything. He's gone.
But he's going to make money off you being on the cover of his book. But anyway, life goes on. We're going to take a little drinks break here on Willow Talk with Glenn Maxwell, or Phil in. Back in a moment to talk about the white ball stuff and our secret cricket club questions. Glenn Maxwell still with us here on Willow Talk. So, Maxi, just with the white ball stuff for Australia, Adam Zampa we had on Willow Talk a few months ago, and he spoke about playing white ball cricket for Australia like Steve Waugh used to speak about playing test cricket for Australia. He loves it that much. Where do you put it in terms of priorities for you? Because let's face it, if you said no to international cricket right now, you'd be still a very busy man with franchise cricket around the world as we speak. But it's still very much a priority for you, the international stuff?
Probably almost more busy if I knocked it back. I think there's so many leagues around the world that you can sort of pick and choose from. That it sort of almost goes 12 months of the year where you can sort of go from tournament to tournament. And I saw a post of I think Chris Lynn the other day where it was him posting all the trophies that he won this year, and I think he's won like 4 championships in a year, and I hadn't heard of 3 of the tournaments.
I didn't even know he was playing.
I wouldn't have even known it wasn't. I don't even think half of them were televised, and like there's so much to keep you busy, I suppose, off the field, away from the international schedule. But Zamps obviously speaks about it glowingly. So do I. I think that change room that we've created over the last little bit has been so enjoyable to be a part of. The group get along so well. There's a lot of trust, I suppose, from up above and throughout the group with all the players that come in and out of that side. And it's certainly a very enjoyable place to play, and probably has extended, I suppose, a few of the guys' end dates, I think, for how enjoyable it is. I think it would have been easy maybe 10 years ago to sort of put an end date and sort of go, that'll be it. But I think when you're having this much fun amongst a group of guys, and you still feel like you're performing, and you're still holding your own, and you're still winning games, it's hard to sort of walk away from that.
Yeah, well, this Pakistan series, one day is 3 of them against Pakistan starting November 4, MCG, then November 8 at Adelaide Oval, November 10 at Optus Stadium in Perth, then 3 T20s right off the back of it. You averaged 49 with a strike rate of 125 against Pakistan. Pretty good. What do you expect from this series? I mean, you've noticed what's happened in the Test series so far. Jason Gillespie just got the irrits with 3 really big guns after the first Test and dropped them. So, as always is the case with Pakistan cricket, anything can happen. So, do you just go into a series against them thinking that literally anything can happen?
Yeah, well, it's exactly like that. They're a very hard team to plan for and I suppose get ready for, because you're just not sure what could happen, and they're so dangerous in all areas of the game. They've got good spinners, they've got good quicks up front, and they've got batters who can win games for them. And we saw, I think, during the ODI World Cup last year, that we were all over them for most of that game, and they fought back really well at the back end, took a bunch of wickets. I think Afridi ended up with 4 or 5, or Ralph got a bunch of wickets at the back end, and we sort of collapsed a little bit. And then they took that momentum into their batting, and same thing, it looked like they were going to chase down high 300s against us, and that would have put us almost out of the World Cup at that stage. And then the same thing, you get 1 or 2 wickets and it all sort of the momentum changes again. So I think you're going to see those ebbs and flows when you play against them in this white ball series, and it's going to be so entertaining, like, because they play an amazing brand of cricket where literally anything could happen, and it's going to be hard for us to, I suppose, stay in our own bubble and make sure we're concentrating on our own things, because they can be, I suppose, super disruptive to whatever plans you've got going on.
The one thing I'd like to ask Max about, yes, you got to walk in this one-day team. Yes, you got to bat, bowl, and field, but you got a bit of a bigger role to play now with guys like Jake Fraser, Cooper Connolly. I'd imagine they will gravitate towards you. What's your message to those two starting their career?
Yeah, I think a lot of the messaging around that. I obviously spend a lot of time with Jake, and we spend a lot of time texting and calling. I make him call me like post game debriefs and sort of make him check in. I make sure I try and watch all his innings and sort of see how he's gone about it, and I suppose just trying to make him develop and make him stay hungry. At the moment, he's not in the Shield team for the Redbacks, and I know that would probably hurt him. And he's got obviously a few big jumps to play international cricket as well in the white ball format, but obviously he wants to be able to be pushing in that other format as well. So I think for him to sort of stay hungry and keep treating every opportunity he gets like a big one, and making sure that he's making the most of those opportunities, whether it be second 11, whether it be one day domestic for South Australia, and keep his focus on that, and not take those moments where he's in the Australian squad for granted.
What about the 50 over game as a whole? Like, personally for me, I love it. We don't play a lot of Test cricket, and you don't play a lot of red ball cricket either, so it's almost like a blend of the two formats. But how do you see the future of it, like, moving forward? There's talk of it like needing a revamp or whatnot. I mean, personally, I think it's all a lot of hoo-ha. I think it's a really good format to watch. But how do you see it moving forward?
Yeah, I think the cricket traditionalist in me absolutely loves it. To be fair, it doesn't faze me if I'm sitting there for 8.5 hours watching cricket all day. That doesn't faze me.
It's great, right? There's only one day.
And to be fair, when I retire, I'll be sitting at the back of the stands and sinking a few cans in that time, so it'll be even better.
Are you joining the Triple M call, are you?
Mate, it's great fun. I
tell you what, it looks and sounds like great fun. Those last 10 overs in the second innings sound like hard work.
Sorry, go on.
But it's a format I obviously probably cut my teeth in a little bit, and had to learn a lot of how to play the game for Victoria early days. Sort of got pushed into a low water role, and was sort of forced to learn my game that way. was fortunate enough to get some Shield chances when I was younger, and that helped grow my one-day game. And probably didn't play as much one-day cricket for Victoria as the amount of time I've been in the game would suggest. And I think being a part of the Australian setup, watching that one-day team evolve and change, and when I was in good form, all of a sudden I was getting put up the order a little bit more, and then I'd be back out of bad form, and I'd be out of the team, and then come back in at 7 and sort of slowly work my way back up. And it just felt like a circle there for a while. And I love the ebbs and flows of one-day cricket. I love how much time there is to change a game, and how those little moments of fielding brilliance can make it a massive difference. And you've only got to sit there for, I think it's 47 or 48 minutes of Ricky Ponting direct hit runouts on YouTube, and understand how much of a big important play can have on a game of cricket. And I just think there's so much more to one day cricket that adds in all three facets of the game, as well as tactical. And it's the hardest format to play physically on your body. To be able to sprint for 50 overs, still do all the boundary line stuff in the 50th over of the game, compared to, I suppose, longer form cricket, where there's a lot of, I suppose, downtime and not a lot happening for most of the day.
Well, there's a busy schedule still. There's no holes in a cricket calendar anymore. Obviously, you mentioned about the franchise cricket, but even international cricket, we've got a Champions Trophy for the men next year, and the T20 World Cup every 2 years, obviously, so 2026. So there's plenty on the plate there if you want it in the next couple of years, Maxi.
Yeah, that's also if someone doesn't take my spot and kick me out, and I've still got to be performing and staying up to the level. I think that's the exciting thing about the next crop coming through is putting pressure on the guys that are currently there. And I've probably said in my 30s that if there's someone who's better suited to my role, I'll have no problem to hang the boots up and move on and find something else that I really enjoy doing in my life. And but yeah, I've had a really good run, and been very fortunate that I've got a nice little niche position where there hasn't been as many people, I suppose, pushing for my position as well, which has been nice.
Fair enough. Now let's get into the Secret Cricket Club questions, shall we? These are from our listeners. They are moderated, so there's nothing untoward here. But Keaton, first one, I'll ask it. You mentioned Ricky Ponting before about his 48 minutes of direct hit runouts. How do you feel when your fielding skills are compared to Ricky Ponting?
Well, I'm glad, because I did spend a lot of time, I suppose, watching him growing up and idolising him and trying to, I suppose, copy everything he did, and even got some hair steroids to make sure that they were fluffy and
legal, obviously. Yeah, shampoo. I think the word you were looking for.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, shampoo. There's a hair growth hormones or whatever. But yeah, I suppose I watched him so much when I was growing up, and I was so fortunate in 2013 to share a change room with him at Mumbai Indians, and one of the coolest moments was to be able to do a fielding session with Jonty Rhodes as the coach, hitting to me and punter, and we did a stump hitting drill. It was just me versus him, and that
who won?
I had to pinch myself. I actually don't remember. It was pretty tight. I think it was pretty tight.
It would have been competitive.
It was, yeah. If you think me and Finchy are bad, me and Rick were quite similar. Because the barbs were exactly the same. It's just probably there was a bit more. I was a bit more sort of standoffish, sort of saying to Rick.
You didn't have a comeback.
Yeah.
To Finchy, I could say literally anything I wanted. I had years of ammo.
Jason asked, you and Punter, another one about Ricky, it's nice. You and Punter are given a whole spring training. Could you play Major League Baseball?
Ooh.
You get a glove.
I played 2 seasons of baseball in my early 20s, and I absolutely loved it. I pitched for my first season playing at Ringwood. That was a mistake. And then
Yeah,
the
they don't
second
get paid
season I
as much.
played,
Hmm.
it was dumb. I shouldn't have pitched. Knowing that I had a cricket season coming up as well, and then I played shortstop for a different team and went up a couple of divisions and absolutely loved it. It was so competitive. They absolutely get into it as well. There's like so much barking from the sidelines, the fans, and it was great fun. And I think if I had a couple of spring trainings and maybe a little bit more time on my shoulder, I'd maybe like to play the minors.
And some steroids.
Is that?
Is that controversial?
They banned them now. Yeah.
Oh.
No,
already got
They're illegal now.
I've already got the hair
Yeah.
hormones,
Yeah.
so I can't take any more.
What I'd love to see is an Australian go over there because they like lose their minds when there's a barehanded pick up and throw.
Yeah.
I would love to see an
Oh.
Australian with a cricket background just go over there and just go, you know what, I'm not using the
Well,
glove today.
Bazana just got picked up. So,
Yeah.
he played cricket. He played junior cricket in Sydney.
He
Northern
did,
Districts.
but just go gloveless.
Yeah.
Just go.
If anyone's going to
They
do it.
absolutely love it. They love it. It's flair, and I think that especially at shortstop, which is a bit like I suppose a wide mid on close. Ball sort of comes to your right, pick it up, throw to first base. They lose their brains. So it's it's good fun.
Yeah, Jen asked one from a curious American. Thoughts on the MLC so far? Ideas for the future?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I went into it with, I suppose, I wanted to experience it without sort of sharing my opinions on it beforehand. I'd heard some good things and some things that needed to be worked on before I went over, and I thoroughly enjoyed that tournament. I think it's starting to grow in the right place. They still need a fair bit of time, I think, to make sure that the supporter bases aren't just all, I suppose, South Asian expats over there. If they can get into the US market, where they've got home grounds at each of the cities, I think that makes it a bit more of a viable tournament where it's a bit more realistic. You can get around the community a little bit and almost promote the game a little bit more in depth. But from what I saw over there, we had some great crowds. There was a bit of talk about it, I think, in the couple of baseball games we went as well. Speaking to a few of the locals at the games, they talked about that they were going to go see the game and had heard a little bit about it. So there is enough word of mouth over there, but I think they can do a better job, I think, of promoting and turning the US into potentially a powerhouse in 10 to 15 years' time.
Hads has got the next one. This has got
I like
this has
Jason.
got an ambulance thing next to it with Hads' name on it. Says Jason asked what?
Jason asked again, were you close to joining the Baggy Blues a few years ago?
Cool.
Well, if you read my book, you'll understand everything that sort of went on in that time, and I wasn't far away.
Shit.
What was that? It was 2016-17 season.
I heard Had's vetoed it, so
Yeah.
I was all
Yeah.
over it.
Had said no.
No way.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't far away.
Wow.
Wasn't fun. So you go into detail in the book, but it was in preparation for this, I do some research. I actually looked back on some reports at the time, and it was based around purely cricket. It wasn't like, you were definitely off Finchy and you never wanted to see him again, or the rest of your Victorian teammates. It was purely a cricketing decision, which would have furthered your cricket and nothing else.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't my first choice of what I wanted to do that summer, and I sort of got a bit of pressure. I was happy to stay at home and keep doing my thing at the MCG, and I absolutely love playing there. But I suppose the guidance that I got from above was that I needed a change of scenery to get me out of my comfort zone.
Prashanth asks, who is the sweetest timer of the ball in the game according to your good self?
Sweetest timer of the ball in our game.
Someone who doesn't have cork in their bats either.
Right. I haven't checked everyone's bats.
You know.
Well, I've come across a few of these younger Indian generation players that it's just scary how good some of them are. playing against Showman Gill and watching him effortlessly score around the ground is a pretty frightening prospect. He makes the game look as easy as a guy like Rohit Sharma. Feels like he's got a lot of time, can score all around the ground, and when you watch him bat, it doesn't look like he's got any weaknesses, and it looks like the game's easy for him, which really gives me the shits. Like, it feels like I've got to work really hard, like against good bowling, to like try and find a gap, and feel like when I hit a boundary against a good bowler, I'm almost patting myself on the back, and it's almost just like it's child's play for him. It's looked like he's got so much time and does it with so much ease. So watching him go about his business is nice to watch.
Now I'm going to get in this next question, and while I'm asking it, the other two next to me can fight over the one after it because it pertains to the type of bat that they use. But while she asks, hardest spinner to face.
Hardest spinner to face.
Zero.
Yeah, I'm like, they're all going over mid-wicket. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Funny story was like it was my first year of IPL, and I faced Murali in my second game, and I came out to bat. I think I was batting at like 4 or 5. And I came out there and he had a bat pad on the offside in a T20 game in the IPL. And I was like, that's a bit insulting. And like, sure enough, first ball went to prodded one forward. It was a deuce run, went straight past the edge. And I was like, I see, he's very good. So that was a nice experience. He was good. Ajmal was difficult. He was hard work. Afridi, when you got a low wicket, was hard work. There's a few good ones out there. Jadeja, any time in India, nightmare. Left arm spinner against right hander. He could either skid it on at 105 k's or turn and bounce and rip your gloves off. And he made me look silly in my first Test series in 2013. And but I don't think I was alone. He's done that to a lot of people, and there's probably no shame in getting out to him so often.
Yeah. Now, who have you figured it out? Who's asking this one?
Oh, it just favourite Kookaburra bat design.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one.
That's the hardest one on here.
I love the bubble. I know Hads will back me up here. Yeah. So I remember when Hads got the bubble in might have been almost the World Cup year around then. And I just looked at it. I was desperate to get one of your bats just because I wanted the stickers, and they wouldn't give them to me. And to be able to, I suppose, use that when I was able to score the record for the BBL is a nice, I suppose, memory of that bat, and that's still sitting in my spare room, and it's got just a little reminder that was a record bat. So that's probably my favourite stickers.
You're going to take care of that one as well for the rest of the time?
Yeah,
that's not seeing the light of day again. I think that's going to be in the case and hidden.
You say that now, Maxi. Wait till you start popping out a couple of kids and your boy just says, I'm going to take that bat.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no. We'll come back to that. It's hard to say no.
Yeah. Might be in the MCG in the sports museum before you know it. So
yeah.
No, I'll give it back.
Well, he's not. He won't be asking. I don't think he's just going to be. He'll grab and take like that. I'll only notice that it's gone when I see an empty glass case where the bat should have been.
Hey, Sam's got a question. If you weren't a cricketer, what would your day job be?
Easy answer.
Well, I was studying to be a school teacher. I got through one subject, one semester, and got picked up in the IPL and never went back.
That's probably a fair enough career choice, I would have thought, Maxi.
So
that's every teacher's dream.
Yeah. But I was. That's where I wanted to go. My sister is a school teacher. I loved, I suppose, working in the classroom, teaching kids. trying to influence the next generation. But I absolutely was desperate to be a school teacher and didn't have the grades. Went away, did the Cricket Victoria Sports Development Program, which was straight out of school, and did a couple of years of that. Then went to uni, and didn't quite work out, but I'm glad other avenues worked out.
Yeah, well, I think we're all glad.
Mm.
Rob asked, play in all 5 home Ashes tests or a round at Augusta with Tiger Woods?
Ooh.
I think that's pretty easy. I think
Tiger Woods, right?
Tiger.
sorry, sorry, Test career. You've had So when am I playing those tests? If I'm playing those tests like 6 years ago when I was actually half decent, like that's okay. Augusta's pretty cool. Tiger's pretty cool. Yeah. That's a once in a lifetime sort of thing.
There's no shame in that answer, Maxi. I think that's completely.
I had my chance. I had my chance to play. Missed it.
Right. Fair enough. I've got one here. Must be a close mate. The mad off spinner. The funniest cricket related moment at your wedding. Must be a mate.
Cricket related moment. I'm going to say cricket related. Nothing really cricket related at the wedding. We tried to sort of keep it away, and probably the only thing was a drop catch, which was the waiter dropping the wine glass, champagne glasses as they were going to the head table. Oh, no. Dropped them on the cake stand.
Oh no!
And the cake went wobble 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 and stayed there, but had champagne and glass all over the bottom of the cake.
Oh, yeah, that's not ideal.
We were basically just about to do the speeches, and I was like, "What is going on over there?" I was like, "Oh my god!" And then waiter was so rattled, had no idea what was going on, but it was pretty loose.
Okay, and we'll end with this one. Hamish's got a question. Did Brad Haddon ever sledge you in a Victoria v New South Wales game?
Never.
It's not a question to you.
I'm going to say he definitely had a word, but I think it was more encouraging me going, "What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time defending? You can hit this bloke over cover. You can hit this bloke over backward point. Why haven't you done? What are you doing? Was your elbow up then? What are you doing? I've never seen that before." And he just he'd nibble away like that, and most of the time I go, "You're right, Brad. What am I doing?" Then I get caught at deep point, or was that
SCG when they knocked the grandstand down? And I remember saying, I reckon I said to you, "I don't want to watch this. I've heard how you hit them." Then all of a sudden, an hour and a half later, he's 100. Remember the grandstand was out?
Steve Waugh.
This was Hads just trying to take credit for your 100, by the way.
Yeah.
I cost us 100. Might even cost us the game, actually.
Did I get 100?
Yep.
I don't think I did. I got 90, I reckon.
Try and hit a 6. That's fine. Try to bring it up.
I got caught. I got caught at point off your husband. Actually, he had 8 fielders on the fence except one bloke who was at backward point, sort of just pushed sort of halfway, and I absolutely picked him out beautifully.
Good one, Mitchell.
Good bowling, that.
Dear. Maxi,
nice.
it's been
wide
a pleasure,
whole
mate.
plan.
Yeah.
Maxi, it's been a pleasure. So many great stories that we basically scratched the surface with, but I'd say they're all covered in the book. A lot of them are covered in the book. Look forward to the read in its entirety. Good luck. It comes out tomorrow, October 30. As you listen to this, it might be post October 29 when this podcast drops, but October 30 it's out. It's called The Showman. Glenn Maxwell with a bit of assistance from Adam Collins. Good luck with the book, mate, and the impending summer, and we'll catch you at a ground.
Yes, thank you very much, guys.
That was Willow Talk. Thank you, Heels. Thank you,
Thanks.
Hads. That was entertaining, as the man is himself.
He changed the game.
He has. That was us for Willow Talk. We'll be back later in the week with plenty more cricket chat. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.